Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I've decided I'm going to sit down and film this video answering this one question I get asked a lot. And let me just say before I get into it and tell you guys what question it is, because if you guys can't read from the title, you probably already know what the question is. But I do not mind getting asked this question at all. I do not mind it when people ask me legitimate piercing related questions. I do not mind at all. But please keep in mind, I'm not a professional piercer. Like anything I'm saying is just my opinion. Some of it is facts, but it's my opinion and what I've had to deal with when it comes to my piercings. So like I said, I do not mind getting asked any piercing related question. It's just I do get asked this question a lot, so I just think it'll be good for me to make a video about it. That way, if and when I do get asked it again, I can just direct that individual to this video and it'll be easier for both of us. So the question is, should I get my dimples pierced? Now, I'm really honestly surprised by how often I do get asked this question, and people have asked me this question for various reasons. I've had somebody ask me if they should get theirs pierced because what they want is permanent dimples. They don't actually want the piercing itself, they just want permanent dimples. And if you guys don't know, there is a plastic surgery procedure that you can have to create dimples. Natural dimples are actually a mutation in the cheek muscle. That's why not everyone has them. It's a mutation. So there's that actual plastic surgery that you can get to, as weird as it is, to mutate the muscles in your cheek to create dimples. But it's a surgery, so it's, procedure is obviously more expensive than getting your dimples pierced if you do want dimples. So yeah, this person wanted, permanent dimples, and what they were asking me is, should they get them and keep them in for X amount of months, take them out, let them heal, that way they'll have permanent dimples. I've gotten people who've asked me, should they get them because they're unsure if it's even worth it because of the whole healing time, and all these piercings can be, honestly a pain in the ass. So, like I said, various reasons, but, all valid because people are wondering. So, short answer is yes. If you want dimple piercings, then go for it. Now, there's a long answer that I want you guys to listen to. Okay, please don't just run out getting them. Listen to this long answer, okay? Now, if you want dimple piercings, you really, really, really need to do your research on them, okay? And I mean, honestly, any kind of piercing you want, you should do some research on. But when it comes to tricky piercings, like the dimple piercings, you really should do your research on it, and you should do extensive research. I think I researched about getting mine done for a year or so. I'm not saying you have to take a year, but I just really, really thought about it. If I really wanted it, horror stories that I had heard about nipple piercings, I'm like, what if that's going to happen to me? Will I be okay with that? All that kind of stuff. So definitely do your research. I'll tell you guys a quick story. So this girl, she messaged me, and she had gotten her dimples pierced earlier that day. And she was asking me because hers were, it's the first day still, keep that in mind. First day, and hers were really swollen, they were irritated, they hurt, all that kind of stuff. And they weren't infected or anything, she had just got them pierced. And by the time I replied to her 3 or 4 hours later, let me just say, when you guys asked me a piercing related question, if you're concerned about your piercing, I tried to make it a point to reply to you guys right away because I know it can be frustrating when you are freaked out about a piercing and you don't have anyone to talk to. So I do my best to answer you guys as soon as I can. Sometimes I am busy, so I can't answer you guys right away, but I do try, honestly, to answer you guys right away. So I answered this girl 3 or 4 hours later because she was asking me, did yours do that when you got yours pierced? I was telling her, it's the first day, relax. It's common for them to be swollen, irritated, all that kind of stuff. You just got a needle put through your cheek, so it's gonna hurt, it's gonna be sore. And I told him, just ice it, take some ibuprofen. I was kind of surprised that, her piercer didn't tell her that kind of stuff. I don't know if her piercer did or not, but I was I don't know, I was just kind of okay. And by the time I replied to her, she had already taken hers out. Now, I know the shop that she went to, and it's kind of a similar shop than the one I go to, and the prices are more expensive. That's a whole other video on shop prices and how they vary from shop to shop, okay? But mine were more expensive, and hers were more expensive. They were honestly around the same price. And so I was like, you spent that much money to get them done. You went through, they don't really hurt getting pierced, but you're getting a needle shoved through your cheek, so it's gonna kind of hurt, but it's not as painful as a lot of people think. And then you just have to deal with the whole swelling and all that kind of stuff. And you went through all of that. for a piercing that you really wanted and you've already taken it out. And I mean, to each their own. If that's what she wanted to do, that's what she wanted to do. But I came to find out later that she didn't actually research it. She just liked it. She had seen it around, so she got it done on a whim. And you guys cannot do that, especially when it comes to dimple piercings. Okay, if you want to get like an ear piercing or something on a whim, that's different, honestly. But when it comes to a piercing that is like tricky and can be a real pain in the ass, like dimple piercings, you guys need to do your research. Okay, research. Okay, definitely research. I cannot stress that enough. And you know, honestly, if you are thinking about getting dimple piercings and you research, you might actually find out that you don't really want to deal with all the shit that you have to deal with sometimes when it comes to dimple piercings. You know, there's been piercings I wanted that I researched and I'm like, oh, do I really want to like kind of deal with that? So like I said, just research. And another thing you guys need to consider is your job. If your job is not okay with body modifications, facial piercings, then you probably shouldn't get your dimples pierced. Because obviously, as you guys can see, they are on your face, so they are much harder to hide. Now, a nose piercing or even like a little lip piercing, those are much easier to hide. There's retainers for those. But, you know, dimple piercings, they're right on your cheeks, obviously. So they are much harder to hide. And I have gotten asked, like, how do I hide mine for my job and everything? So for those of you who do not know, I'm a stay-at-home girlfriend, and this is my job. So I am lucky enough and blessed enough where I don't have to worry about, like, hiding mine. So my advice on that level would just be, if your job isn't okay with it, then don't do it. Because it's just, it'll be more of a hassle than anything. So definitely don't do it if your job is not okay with it. Another thing is your school. If you are in school and your school is not okay with it, then don't do it. I've had, you know, people who have asked me if they should get theirs done because they're in like a nursing program. And I'm sad to say, but the medical field definitely does not want dimple piercings on any of their staff members. I hate to say it. I wish society was different. I wish people's outlook and everything on dimple piercings and body modifications in general would be different, you know, that they were more accepted, especially in the workplace and, you know, just kind of in general in society. But we're not there yet. So if your school isn't going to be okay with it, then you definitely don't need to do it either. Alright, another thing that I want you guys to consider, if you are younger and you're under 18 and you still live with your parents or a guardian or, you know, what have you, if they do not want you to get your dimples pierced, then don't do it. Now, I know that sucks because I remember living with my parents. My parents were kind of strict when it came to that kind of stuff. You know, they were like, you couldn't really only get your ears pierced. I did get my nose pierced when I, you know, was younger. I was a freshman when I got my nose pierced, a freshman in high school. And I had to beg and beg for that, you know. But it's obviously, like, nose piercings are such a common thing that wasn't that big of a deal, but I just really had to beg and, like, prove that, like, I deserved to get my nose pierced. So I understand how frustrating it can be, but dimple piercings are not a type of piercing that, you know, you can hide, obviously. And, you know, I have known some people to get them done, and then, you know, when their parents are around, they'll take out the jewelry. That's just a pain in the ass, honestly, and it's a hassle, and it's bad for your piercing. It's bad for your cheek tissue, because these types of piercing will close up fast if the jewelry's not in there. Like, honestly, they will. And you can't think that you're going to be able to hide the piercing from your parents forever. So just wait, and honestly, you may find that waiting, you kind of grow out of the piercing. You may learn that you actually don't want it done. So please just wait until you are old enough to go get pierced by yourself, and you don't need parental consent, and please do not pierce it yourself either. Another thing I want you guys to consider is scars. Now, if for whatever reason you have to take out your dimple piercings, you're going to have scars left on your cheeks, like on your face, like that's just how it is. So if you don't want that, then I would advise, like, against it, because there might come a day where you have to take them out. You don't know. Me, honestly, I'm okay with it if, you know, they do tend to scar. It's not going to be, like, the only scar on my face. I have a chickenpox scar. I have a scar along my nose here from, like, when I was younger. So, I mean, it really doesn't bother me. And the scar they're going to be tiny. You know, they're not going to be, like, this big. You know, they're tiny. So, it's not too, like, serious, but if you don't want any scars on your face, then you probably shouldn't get them done. I just want you guys to know, like, in no way am I trying to, you know, make cheek piercings seem horrible and, you know, turn you guys off on the idea of getting them, because that's not it at all. I just want you guys to be really educated and, you know, thoroughly think about getting them and think about everything that comes along with it and everything like that. That's the whole point of this video, is just for you guys to, you know, do your research, think about everything that I've talked about, you know. I want you guys to know that, like, the healing time on cheek piercings definitely differs from person to person, and, you know, you can I've had mine for over a year, and I'm one of the lucky ones because mine don't flare up a lot, but cheek piercings are known to flare up. They're known to get bumps. That's a common thing with them. They do get bumps around the piercing from time to time, and sometimes it's, you know, not a big deal, and other times, you know, the bumps do get kind of large and you kind of have to drain them because typically they are filled with fluid. That doesn't mean that your piercing is infected or anything like that. That's just, it's a common thing when it comes to cheek piercings. So like I said, I'm not trying to turn you guys off from getting them. I just want you guys to be thoroughly educated and thoroughly think about everything that I've talked about in this video, because like I said, it's kind of a serious piercing and you have to commit to this piercing. So that's all I have for you guys today. Feel free to look in the description box. I have lots of playlists linked down there, and I have my piercing playlist, which that has like a lot of my, well, all of my piercing videos, but a lot of those videos are dimple related. So if you want to go watch those, check out the description. And also my social medias are also down there. So if you want to follow me on anything, check down there. I love you all. Thank you so much for watching my video, and hopefully you'll check out my next one.